In today's video, we are going to finish the second part of the series of what the left hand should be doing in your golf swing. So previously we talked about the backswing and what the left wrist should be doing to help you make sure that you have a square club face, and what your grip should be doing to make sure you helps you get that square club face. And so today we're going to proceed with what the left wrist should be doing on the downswing to help you square up the club face. It'll actually help you lag the club more easy and get you forward shaft lean. All of that together if you know what your lead wrist or your left wrist needs to be doing on the downswing. If you're brand new to our channel, make sure you subscribe. If you hit that little bell button, you'll see all our future notifications that we have coming up. We appreciate when you give us a thumbs up. It helps grow our content, grow the channel. And today we're going to talk about that left wrist, help you hit the ball straighter, and help you square everything up a whole lot easier and make your game better. All right, so before we talk about what we're going to be doing with the lead wrist, all right, we're going to talk about some of the faults that we tend to come across in the downswing, because we need to identify those faults to make sure that we might do the lead wrist correctly or we might do it wrong, but we just don't have any idea. All right, we're also going to talk about the iron in the lead wrist and the driver, because they're going to be a little bit different when it comes to what your lead wrist is doing. So we're going to cover basically the primary fault that we come across. So the number one fault that I tend to come across with people with the lead wrist, it kind of starts at the very top of their backswing. So they get to the top of their backswing and they're going to have a little cup right here. Okay, some of them might be even more. All right, and what happens when you have that cup in your backswing is you can tell very easily if I just hold the club face like that and I cup it, you can see how the face is opening up on me. Right, so most people have that cup on the top of their backswing, and the only way they've learned to square it up is by releasing it, swinging across their body. And that leads to that pop-up fly, slice, steep swing, all the stuff that we are trying to not do in our golf swing. And it's because that wrist is in the wrong position on top. So when you get to the wrist on top, I want you to make sure that it is nice and square and the club face matches the wrist position or your body position. Okay, should really match the left forearm most of the time in your golf swing. Okay, so people take it to the top and they have that cupped wrist on top, and then when they swing down, the club really stands up at a steep angle. Now, if I take my wrist and I make it flat, automatically you're going to see where the club starts to drop, starts to shallow, without us worrying about it too much. And then if I make it bow, it goes even more behind me. So what should your left arm, what should your lead arm be doing in the downswing with the irons? So we're going to assume that you get the club to the top and you're in a very neutral position. What your lead arm needs to start doing is it needs to start doing a bow. Okay? If we look at it from face on and it starts to bow, if you see the club face, let's see how it starts to close, which is actually a really good thing in the golf swing, because the majority of golfers struggle with slicing the ball. All right? And most of the time they might even have a good path, but their club face tends to be open, so everything looks like a block, a pull, a slice, all sorts of different things, because the club face is all over the way. So we want you to get to the top, and as you start swinging down, we want that wrist to start feeling a bow. You might feel it in the forearm a little bit. As it starts to drop, it's going to start to shallow, and when you get into the ball, you'll see something really cool start to happen. You'll see you might start lagging it, but you will have forward shaft lean, which helps you compress it, helps you hit the ball farther, more square. Everything becomes so much better. You start hitting the ball first, and then the ground rather than the ground and the ball. So that little bow motion is key. So when it comes to bowing that left wrist, everybody does it a little bit differently. Some people might feel it with the left wrist. Some people might feel the right hand start to actually go into a more cup position. Right? I am going to be a little bit in between both of those. I tend to do really good when I imagine the club face, or I can feel the club face. So I just feel the club face. I can feel it, and I know what it feels like in my hands when it comes down and is closed or square. Okay, so that's just something that you're going to have to try to discover yourself. Some of us might be more left arm dominant in the downswing. That's how I was always taught. Some might fire more with the right arm. But whatever you do, you got to have that little bowing as it comes down, and then it's going to be nice and square there, so you can hold lag longer and keep that forward shaft lean and hit stuff a whole lot straighter. Here's a quick little tip before we go to the driver. Something that a lot of people think is when you come back to impact, that everything should look like you started off as far as the club standing straight up and down. Well, what tends to happen when people think that and then they turn their body, you can see how the face is open. So that's why we have to feel like the face is closed almost that much. It's going to change depending on how open your body tends to get, right? But if it's that closed and then the body opens, then it's actually square, right? If you come back and you think it should be square, like just how you set up and then you turn, you're going to hit everything right. Even if your path is perfect, you're still going to look like you hit blocks and slices. All right, so you have to understand that that club face has to feel more closed at impact than what you think it should be. And if you're still hitting stuff to the right as it starts off to the right, you got to get that thing to bow or close even sooner before impact so it can actually be square. Now as we move on to the driver, all right, everything has to be done more aggressively. All right, considering that the club is longer, we have less loft on the face. It is going to be harder to hit it straight. It's going to be harder to square up the face. This is why so many people can be successful with their irons, but really struggle with their driver. So when they get to the top, I want you to really feel like that left wrist bows or that club face really closes a whole bunch with the driver. It needs to happen sooner in the downswing than the irons. The irons you can get away with it. The driver you can't. You really have to feel like it gets closed soon if you want to square up that face. All right. If you're tired of hitting slices or tired of blocking out the driver, that wrist has to bow. All right. It has to get you everything closing, so then you can release it. Okay. Now, when it comes to the driver, we do have a few different ways that people like to close the face. All right. Not necessarily successfully. Right, so when it comes down, some people like to cast it. Okay, you can see that my wrist still has a cup position, but I casted the club. Right, that's not going to be a very powerful move or predictable move. Okay, so you want to really focus on that. So when you get to the top, make sure it's not a cast. All right, but that wrist maintains basically that 90-degree angle, but it just starts to bow, and then you can start to release the club. If you still have that bow and you still release the club a little bit, you're still going to have enough forward shaft length at impact with your driver to be successful, to hit it square, to hit it straight. Okay, now with the driver, same thing. We tend to turn a little bit harder, so you're going to feel like that face is shut down, and as you turn, that actually makes that club face square. Okay, if you turn like crazy, I don't know, somebody like that. Right now, if you find yourself hitting poles a lot, right, congratulations, you don't have to bow it maybe as much on the downswing. So you have to make those adjustments based on what your ball flight is. So just remember, ball flight, the direction it starts off with tends to be the club face, and the path or the curve tends to be the path into the golf ball. All right. I hope you enjoyed these videos today on what the left wrist should be doing. Thanks for watching.